Hello, thank you for taking the time to review my presentation. Today, we will be taking a look at the changes in the wealth of New England over a 5-year period between 2010 and 2015. At first glance of the map of wealth in New England in 2010, you can see that the wealth seems to be secluded to one state. Down here, Connecticut is highlighted in green, while the other states are highlighted in red, which are representing the poor states. Long seen as a state of wealth, is Connecticut continuing to maintain that status, or are the rich leaving Connecticut for other states? Now, 2015, the wealthy income in New England has spread to Massachusetts and to New Hampshire. As you can see, these states are now highlighted in green. It does appear that Vermont and Maine and Rhode Island, they're all still unchanged, and you can see they are red in both maps in contrast to each other. So in order to assess these changes, we need to look at the overall population changes in each state. So here we have our 2010 population, and that's actually highlighted in blue bars, and then we have our 2015 population in the purple bars, and this is separated through each state and the number of households that each state has reporting those income levels. Now, throughout all of these bars, as you can see, the increase or decrease from the 2015 or 2010 to 2015, Connecticut is the only state where the population is actually decreased. See, it goes from down about 7,000 in the 5-year period. Now, the other states, you can see that there is increase in all of them, but there is a significant increase in Massachusetts, and there's a significant increase in New Hampshire, at least enough where we can see it in the charts without having to actually scroll over and look at the actual data enough. Now, the other states, interesting enough, the ones that seemed unchanged on the previous map, their actual population isn't much. You see, like Rhode Island is here with 300 population change, and Vermont is 500, and Maine is very little as well. So these are a slight increase, but it really is not much. Massachusetts and New Hampshire are the ones that are making a significant difference. So if we look into the actual income levels of these states, we can break down our rich reportings versus the poor reportings. And so the rich here are defined as reporting an income of $200,000 a year or more, and the poor are defined with an income of less than $10,000 a year. So the 200,000 is in the upper shaded portion of the bar in blue, and the less than 10,000 is in pink at the bottom of the bar. So throughout all of New England, we can actually see that there is an increase in the wealthy population. So the blue bars in every single state is noticeably increased in size, and so that means that every single state has an increase in their number of households that are in the wealthy income bracket. Now, that's the same trend for every single state, but the lower income bracket, which we have represented in pink, is not following the same trend. Whereas some seem to increase, and some, like Connecticut, is an increase, and then we have a decrease in Massachusetts, and we have an increase in Rhode Island and a slight decrease in Vermont. And it's fluctuated, so nothing seems to follow a trend here, unlike the higher income bracket. But if we go to focus on just the 3 states that seem to be of a lot of interest from before, we can see that Massachusetts and New Hampshire actually have really good detail in common. Not only did they both increase their rich population as everybody else did, but they also decreased their lower income population. There's a significant decrease in Massachusetts and a little lesser in New Hampshire, but still they both had that same thing in common. Now, Connecticut, on the other hand, Connecticut has trended with the same rich household increase, but they also increased their number of poor households. So this is one state where they're increasing the rich household and we're increasing the poor households. And the only reason why I would make that a point is, if you remember from a few charts back, this is the only state that has a decrease in population. So while the households are increasing in both the highest income bracket and in the lowest income bracket, they are still having a decrease in population overall. That's very interesting. So going back to New England as a whole, this chart shows us the ratio between the rich and the poor. So the ratio is going to be higher if there is if there's a giant ratio between the rich people and the poor people, and so as you can see, every state has seemed to have an increase from 2010 to 2015, and the two states that have moved into the richer bracket, as we discussed, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, they had a very similar increase. As you can see, Massachusetts went from 97 to 145, and New Hampshire went from 96 to 144. That's a very similar increase, and they're both very significant. It's much more significant than, as you can see, like Rhode Island's smaller change and Vermont's smaller change. But Connecticut was the only state that was initially had a positive, represented in the dark blue, a positive ratio in 2010, and they continued to have a positive ratio in 2015. It is an increase. They still have it, and it is an increase overall. So how does that actually look when we compare our income as a whole in all of New England, but we can consider the middle classes and not just the poor and the rich? So when we look at the middle classes and all the classes together, you can see that we have our reported incomes of 2010, and they're represented in the blue dots. And then we have our 2015 incomes that are represented in the purple dots. And this is going to completely coincide with our previous data, but the households reporting over 200,000 have a significant increase in population from 2010 to 2015. As you can see, we go from 335,000 up to 437,000 in the 5-year change, and that's the income class of 200,000 or more. Now, we can go down this y-axis, and it'll show us the other income levels, and it'll get lower as we go down. But the higher ones, above 100,000, you can see that we still have a significant increase in each of these income levels. But as we do get lower, the increase is not so significant. It's not something that stands out on the chart much anymore. Once we get down below 100,000, you can see there's a significant change again, but it's actually reversed. There's actually less households in 2015 earning this income bracket than there were in 2010, and this data seems to trend as we continue down to almost every single income level below 100,000. The exception of 15,000, but it's very, very similar anyway. So as we continue below the higher income brackets, it seems that there is a decrease in the actual population. So In conclusion, we originally asked if Connecticut's rich were leaving the state, and it seems apparent that the state is no longer the only assumed wealthy state in New England. However, with a dwindling population and still an increase in its rich to poor ratio, perhaps much of Connecticut's middle class has found new opportunity in Massachusetts and in New Hampshire. Thank you very much.